Hello, and welcome to the Science Show. Today we will be learning about evolution, how it works. Today we have a special guest joining us, Dr. Zoe, a professor of evolution.
Hi! Let's get started. Almost 4.6 billion years ago, a completely unrecognizable Earth began to form. In the beginning, it was geologically violent, unbelievably hot, and constantly being hit by meteoroids. It was not until almost a billion years later that the first life appeared. Small, single-cellular organisms, such as bacteria. Another billion years later, multicellular organisms began to evolve. It is only in the last 600 million years that life really took shape. To fully understand evolution, it is important to first understand genetics and heredity. Genes are made of chains of DNA and are found in the chromosomes of every cell. They are responsible for all our characteristics, from hair colour to abilities. Heredity is the passing on of traits from parents to their offspring. Within a species, everyone has a set of genes unique to that species, which is why every member of the same species shares certain traits. However, in every organism, variations occur in the form that each gene takes, meaning that no two individuals are exactly the same. The set of genes an offspring inherits from both parents is called a genotype, and the appearance or characteristic that it produces is called the phenotype. Without genetic variation, evolution would, essentially, not be possible. There are three main sources of variation: mutations, gene flow, and sexual reproduction. A mutation is a change in a cell's DNA. Mutations can be beneficial, neutral, or harmful, but they are completely random. Not all mutations matter to evolution. A mutation can occur in any body cell, but it will only be passed on to the next generation if it occurs in a reproductive cell. There are two potential causes of mutations. The first is that the DNA fails to copy correctly during either mitosis or meiosis, meaning that the copy of the cell is not perfect. Mutations can also be caused by exposure to radiation or certain chemicals that cause the DNA to break down. The second source of genetic variation is gene flow, also called migration. Gene flow is when an individual and the genetic material they carry move to a new population where a particular gene version they have does not yet exist. The final and most common source of genetic variation is sexual reproduction. An offspring is a random combination of both parents' genes, meaning that new gene combinations are created. This can be a good, neutral, or bad thing. It can mean that great new combinations can be created, but it also means that good ones can be broken up. In the big picture, however, sexual reproduction is very important for evolution as it introduces new combinations of genes in every generation. Put simply, an adaptation is a genetic change that helps an organism survive in its environment and over time becomes a typical trait of that species. Some adaptations are behavioural and affect the way an organism acts. An example of behavioural adaptation is migration. Other adaptations are structural, meaning they affect a physical part of the organism. Some adaptations are originally developed for one purpose but over time are used for another. These are called exaptations. Alternatively, some adaptations eventually become useless but are still there anyway, such as the human appendix. Occasionally, a species will adapt so much that an entirely new species is created in a process known as speciation. Another type of adaptation is co-adaptation, where two species evolve so that they benefit each other. Unfortunately, this can also lead to co-extinction. Closely related to adaptation is natural selection, one of the basic mechanisms of evolution. Only those who are fit to survive in their particular environment will survive long enough to reproduce, reducing the likelihood that negative characteristics will be passed down to the next generation. This is why some species produce such large offspring, as many will not survive to adulthood. Only the fittest will survive. This is a harsh but true theory that makes a lot of sense when it comes to evolution. Extinction is the dying out or termination of a species and is a significant part of evolution. It is believed that 90% of species that ever lived are now extinct. Paleontologists distinguish between background extinction, the steady rate at which species disappear over time, and mass extinctions, the episodic events in which large numbers of species become extinct over time spans short enough to appear almost instantaneous on the geologic scale. In history, 5 mass extinctions have occurred, the most recent of which occurred about 65 million years ago and was responsible for the extinction of the dinosaurs. Whilst this was a devastating and deadly event, it made way for mammals to diversify and evolve. Many scientists believe that the 6th mass extinction is already underway. By the year 2100, human activities such as pollution, land clearing, and overfishing may have driven more than half the world's marine and land species to extinction. Evidence for evolution, particularly that of human, comes in many forms. Thousands of human fossils enable researchers to study the changes that occurred in brain and body size, locomotion, diet, and other aspects regarding the way of life of early human species over the past 6 million years. Not only this, but countless tools, paintings, and other traces of human life have been dated and allow scientists and historians to work out the various significant milestones in human evolution. The study of genetics also helps give us a better understanding of evolution. That's all we have for you today. Be sure to come back next week for another episode of The Science Show.